Before I come to the actual topic of this very last panel, TVET, let me just introduce how this is being embedded in all the different activities that actually GIZ is doing. I think many of you have heard about GIZ. GIZ is the organization implementing development projects on behalf of the federal German government in about 120 countries around the globe. In Nigeria, we have one of our larger portfolios. We have almost 600 employees working here, and the portfolio has been growing tremendously in recent years, and I think this is also evidence for the fact that there is a strong commitment of the German federal government to implementing development projects in Nigeria. Still waiting for the presentation. All right, I'll just continue. So in GIZ Nigeria, we have three areas of emphasis. One is sustainable economic development. One is energy. You already met my colleague Duke Benjamin, who is heading the energy project. And we also have, which was decided in the recent government negotiations, another emphasis in agriculture. The sustainable economic development includes topics like private sector development, vocational training, employment promotion, value chain development, and also migration. We work in about 15 states currently with a budget of way beyond 100 million euros. Next slide, please. So this gives you a quick overview. On the left upper side, you find SEDIN, that's our SME development project. Then SKYE, that's a project I work for. We are committed to vocational training and employment promotion. Then we have the Migration for Development and PMD project. They are both committed to supporting returning migrants to Nigeria. We have a new project which is called Digital Solutions for Sustainable Development, which supports research organizations, innovation and entrepreneurship. And then finally, we have two projects in the field of agriculture. Next slide, please. So skills development and youth employment. Our mandate is to promote needs-based technical vocational education and training. And when I'm talking about needs-based, we are talking about the needs of the industry. Interestingly, when we look at the labor market in Nigeria, we are facing a paradox. Because on the one hand, we have tremendous unemployment, especially among youth. But on the other hand, we also find a lot of companies that are desperately looking for skilled laborers in particular sectors. Next slide, please. What are the reasons for that? We have to look at both sides of the market. First of all, the supply side. We find reputational issues about vocational training. Also, we face, gender issues. I mean, if you neglect almost 50% of the population in certain sectors, of course, you may face an issue when you want to fill posts with qualified labor. We have insufficient capabilities in the TVET system to provide sufficient training, both in terms of quality but also quantity. I think there are efforts being made by the government, but I think there is still more to do. On the other side, on the demand side, we also find sometimes reluctance of companies to get actively engaged in training. And finally, we also have issues with matching both sides, the supply side and the demand side. So that's also something we need to look at. Now, what to do about it? Developing quality in TVET is one of our primary goals to develop new vocational standards, to support vocational training institutes by doing organizational development, by training trainers, by training managers, to help them to improve their performance. I think other topics have already been mentioned before. Career guidance. We have to raise the awareness that also with vocational training, you can have decent employment, you can have a decent career in Nigeria. We have to encourage, and we do encourage women to take professions that are maybe not for women to choose, and encourage them to make their way. Later on, we still have a very interesting fireside chat with two of our female beneficiaries who actually have chosen an unusual trade, and who can probably tell you what their way has been and how it has been for them to be in these professions as a woman. On the other hand, we need to look at the demand side. We have to approach companies. We need to show that vocational training is something that pays off. We need to show that vocational training, investment into training, is a business case. Next slide, please. So skills development and youth employment works on different levels and in different outputs. I want to keep this a bit short. I mean, you can see on the right-hand side the states you're active in total 7. Lagos, Edo State, Abuja, Plateau, Ogun State, Adamawa. And yeah, we work on the one hand, we work on the policy level to work on the framework conditions of TVET and employment promotion. Then secondly, we do capacity development, which is actually a cross-cutting topic which goes through the whole project, which follows a holistic approach covering organizational development, but also training of trainers. We are working on the improvement of vocational standards together in collaboration also with the Federation of Construction Industries. Then we are trying out new models of vocational training where we can do what I mentioned before, where we can illustrate that training is a business case. So our project supports the project of VDMA and Dangote Academy in Obajana. We also work with the Federation of Construction Industry, and we have established a training institute, state-of-the-art training institute in Abuja. And we also work with SLOT on training IT and computer repair technicians. Finally, we work on active labor market measures, which includes short-term trainings, but also any measures that help to facilitate this transition from training into the labor market. At the core of all these activities is to bring the private and the public sector together. When we look at TVET, next slide please, there is one successful model that often is looked at, the German dual vocational training system. It's a successful model in Germany, and this is something that we cannot just plant it somewhere else. It's like a tree. If you plant it from Germany to Nigeria, with a different soil, different climate, it will not necessarily grow. However, we can look at what are the most relevant elements of this system and how can we bring this into the Nigerian system to make substantial improvements. If we look at these elements, we see that if we look at the German system, we see that there are 2 learning venues. We have the vocational school and we have the company. The company is not only a place of work, but it's also a place of learning, but also contributing to the productivity of the business. So, and that makes it a business case, to enable young people to be in the company, to learn in the company, but at the same time to contribute to the productivity of the business. So that's why, apart from standards and qualified TVET staff, The business is in the driver's seat here. The business has a strong role in this training model, and this is something that we would like to promote, and having these, make use of these two learning venues. Next slide, please. So one of our training models that we are doing in collaboration with the organization SKYE and the Federation of Construction Industry is an activity that actually builds upon a dual vocational training project of AHK, and that we are now doing in a very close collaboration, which is to strengthen the capacity of business membership organizations to conduct 1 year initial vocational trainings, which are delivered as a competence-based approach in a dual format, as I mentioned before, knowing the two learning venues. And you can see 70 to 80% take place in the company. The company again here is in the driver's seat, and the main emphasis is on learning at the workplace. So currently we have established this training center together with FOSI in Abuja. There are further training centers planned in Lagos and Port Harcourt. And we also would like to roll out these curricula, these new standards into the governmental system. This is not meant to be to replace the current vocational training system as it is in Nigeria, but rather to add a second option to it, to also reach a different target group. You know, the traditional vocational training system, we reach out to youth between 15 and 19 or 20. But once you're beyond that age, what do you do then? Where do you go to? I mean, there are a lot of private training centers that do a lot of short-term trainings, which we would consider active labor market measures. But to really get a substantial training, that's not such an easy thing. And this is something we would like to develop. We would like to see that there is a broadened offer if you look for a substantial training. Next slide, please. Yeah, as mentioned before, I mean, the challenges we face are huge and require a holistic approach. I mean, we have to approach the youth and the parents to overthink career choices. We have to approach women to overthink their career choices and to see opportunities in sectors that they don't have a high affinity to. Which often has to do with perception. I mean, we have one interesting activity that we are doing with Interbau Foundation, where we try to change the perception of what actually the construction sector is. Most people think of construction as masonry, getting dirty, but there are about 200 trades only in the construction industry, and there are a lot of trades which are appealing to both men and women. Then career information. I mean, information is everything. So career information is also one emphasis of our project. We work on this together with our partners to get the information to the young people so that they can take an educated decision. Then develop organizational competence to deliver good quality training and to facilitate employment. I think this slide shows you a bit the different levels we work on. I mean, we work on individual level by, for example, training a trainer or a training center manager, but at the same time, you have to look at the meso level of the organizational level, develop the organization, look at processes, how does an organization maintain training infrastructure, how is the hiring of trainers, the continuing training of trainers going on. And finally, we also have to look at the framework as a whole, the public-private dialogue. And when I talk about public-private dialogue, I'm talking about bringing public and private sector really together, not only to talk, but actually to collaborate and to pull into the same direction. And yeah, then also, of course, to create policies that create an enabling environment, not only for vocational training, but also for business development, because of course we know many of the graduates of our trainings that we do with our partners, they will go into self-employment. Important is we need to listen to the private sector to develop standards according to their needs, because they are in the end those who want to hire these people. And we cannot train for the sake of training. We always have to look at both sides of the market, the supply and the demand side. We need to encourage companies to invest into training. We have to show that it is a business case, and also we need to bring public-private sector together in a very trustful relationship. And I would like to end my presentation on a very positive note. I mean, I have been working here in Nigeria for almost 3 years now, and I appreciate very much the partners that we have, and I think we have gone quite far on the federal level, also on the governmental level. Ms. Ronke is here, one of our very appreciated partners from Lagos State. We also have very fruitful relationships with the chambers, individual companies, government agencies. From GIZ side, since we have been in Nigeria since 1974, our approach is to be there for long and to really, truly create sustainable impact together with our partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tobias. A great presentation, very eye-opening. But again, the reward for good presentations is that people tend to ask questions. Do we have any questions in the house before is that a hand going up? Okay. Any others? Okay, one here as well. Okay, let me go to this gentleman and then I'll come to you. Can you approach me just in the interest of time? Any other questions? No.
Quick one. Thank you very much for your presentation. When you were talking, you mentioned 3 focus intervention area, which is agriculture. That actually caught my attention. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Nana Sunday, Program Associate at Nourish in Africa, and our focus is specifically on agriculture. So my question is, given the fact that we share almost the same vision in terms of agriculture, how can Nourishing Africa partner with GIZ to support agri-food entrepreneurs across Africa? Thank you.
Great. Tobias, if you want to address that question, and we'll also put it to the panel as well, because this is the topic the panel will be dealing with.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a question we receive a lot. I mean, first of all, I mean, we have a variety of partners. I mean, as we are German government collaboration, of course, one of our prime partners is the Nigerian government and also the state governments. But we also work together with a lot of NGOs, because we also have a very active civil society in Nigeria that does a great job on many things, and that's something that we include as well. I mean, for a collaboration, technically, we would need to see what exactly is what you're bringing to the table, and then we would need to see how it does fit into our concept, and then of course there are still some administrative questions to process. But you are very welcome. I can share my contact with you after this presentation, and we can further discussion. Thank you.